Sometimes I get feedback on this YouTube thing. So, Arundhati,
Yes, Bhante.
so it's winter time down there where you are, right?
It's 7 o'clock in the morning.
It's winter time, winter.
Oh, yes, winter, of course, yes, yes.
Is it very cold?
Not as cold as United States. We expect a lot of rain, no snow,
Okay. Yeah, it's quite warm here.
really.
We've been meditating outside in the morning and evening. It's very nice.
Yeah. Bhante, would you ever think of making a trip to Perth?
Probably not.
Oh,
You have
okay.
enough Dhamma down there. You have Achan Brahm and
Yeah.
some other things, right? It's a long ways.
We have a very good meditation center, retreat center.
That's not the one connected with Achan Brahm?
Yes, it is.
It is, Jhana Grove. Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a lot of monks, teaching down there with him, right?
Yeah. All of them don't teach though, Bhante.
No, but at least a few, I think, are.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Of course, everybody, emphasizes different, things.
Exactly. I know what you mean. Yes. That's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, I think I'm cutting down on my travels. Except for some of my established routes, like going to Germany and in Brazil.
Yes, I know. I have been following you
and Canada.
a little bit. Yeah.
Because those long trips, I can't really leave here, this Lion Wisdom Center for very long, because I had to get somebody to stay here and watch the place. And for a couple of weeks, it's all right, but
yeah.
yeah.
So, Bhante, is it possible to do a long retreat there, but too old to travel now, Bhante?
We just had a 1-week retreat here. It went very nice. We had 12 people.
Yeah. But if I were to come, maybe for a month?
You can come for a month, yes, and be on like a self-retreat, but we need our daily meditations twice a day and other things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can. Puluan.
Bhante, Aya Kema spent some time in Australia.
Who?
Aya Kema. She's a Theravada.
Or the German Ayakema.
Yes.
Oh yeah. She.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
She spent time there.
Very well known.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was. Yeah. What Buddha Dhamma in Sydney?
Yeah, she started that Wat Buddha Dhamma outside of Sydney. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, friends, we're going to go ahead and start now with reciting the Namo Tassa in the 3 refuges for those who like to join. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang saranang gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang saranang gacchami. Welcome, friends, to this Wednesday evening Dhamma discussion and meditation practice. So I hope you're all able to get the newsletter I sent out on Tuesday. And I asked about, people having questions, to ask some questions. Now, one person has sent in a question, which is, a subject that I haven't, kind of gone into detail or talked too much, because it's not a fairly common question within Buddhism, but it is a more common subject within yoga and Hinduism. And it's concerning what are called the Pancha Niyama, or the 5 niyamas, which are roughly translated as natural laws. Now, we've talked a lot about karma as being, the natural law that governs the operation of the mind and how it gets entangled in concepts and perceptions and emotions and, creating karma that we then experience reactions. Now, karma is only one of these 5 niyamas. And so I'm going to go over them in the order that they're normally mentioned. And the first, because a lot of people, sometimes people have a wrong understanding of karma. And they think that every single thing that happens to them is the result of, their bad actions or their good actions. But really only the karma niyama has those results of bringing painful or pleasant effects from our mind, from the, good or bad actions. And so there's other things that affect us in our life. And so one of these is the Uttu Niyama. And the Uttu Niyama governs sort of the laws of inorganic or non-living matter. And basically things like it governs the climate and the weather and the 4 seasons. And this would also these natural disasters like earthquakes, floods or tsunamis, fires and tornadoes. So these kind of natural disasters, you could say landslides and most other kind of natural disasters and weather, are just natural laws governed mostly because the way the universe and the earth was, formed, what they're made out of, and and how the rotation of the sun and other factors influence, how far it is close or far away from the sun, depends on, how hot or cold it's going to be, and other factors. And the moon also, like the tides. So anyway, those are governed by that Utu Niyama. And then there's the Bija Niyama, which govern the law of seeds and plant life, basically. Seeds, and germs, flowers, fruits, and plant life, how they grow, they grow in the seasons, and how long they, their lifespan and all of that is governed by those, the Bija Niyama. Of course, we're affected by that, of course. We grow food and but still, that's governed by, those laws. Now, the third one is the Kama Niyama, which is the moral causation. And this is the one we're most familiar with. How the interaction of our mind and thoughts generate the effects or reactions from that. Now, in some other religions, they think the results of all of our actions is governed by a supreme being. But in the Dhamma, both in Buddhism and in Hinduism, also in yoga, that the law of karma is what is causing us pleasant feelings and reactions to our actions and thoughts, or the painful ones, or neutral ones. And so, this is best illustrated by the first two verses of the Dhammapada, that all actions are led by the mind. Mind is their master, mind is their maker. If one acts or speaks with an impure mind, then suffering will follow, as the cartwheel follows the foot of the ox. And in the same way, if one acts or speaks with a pure state of mind, that means the opposite of greed, hatred, and delusion, then comfort and happiness will follow, like your shadow follows you around. And actually, when I was in India, I took a photo of an ox cart loaded with hay, very heavily laden, with an ox pulling it, and the ox wheel was only about 2 or 3 inches from the foot of the ox, and it was suffering from having to pull this heavy load along the road for many miles. So it was an apt kind of simile, and I hope to put it on my newsletter one of these times. Anyway, so I think most of you, we've talked about karma quite a lot. So we create karma by the mind. Basically, all karma starts in the mind because it starts as a thought, although it's expressed through our speech and our bodily actions. And so, we get the result, even in Western societies, they follow moral laws, and if we kill and steal and, sexual misconduct and hurting people through that and other means, even the law is going to come after us. So even this kama niyama is some correlation to the Western law. But in this way, a court is not punishing us for our actions, but we'll suffer in mental ways, like with guilt, worry, remorse. And then our mind, when it does get reborn, then it may be affected. The memories of those very heavy actions and habits that we've accumulated while living, then like a magnetic attraction, that mental stream can be carried over to different realms of, birth, where people will encounter kind of similar situations. anyway, so that karma niyama, this the law of how the mind operates within the, within the world and matter and its reactions. And, it's very complex. So then the fourth niyama is Dhamma niyama. And this is, basically connected with, spiritual or, religious teachings. So, we are followers of the Dhamma, the Buddhist teaching especially, Dhamma niyama. And basically it means like the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha didn't invent suffering. He didn't invent the cause of suffering or the cessation of suffering or the way leading to the cessation of suffering, the Four Noble Truths. But these belong to the Dhamma niyama, that suffering is an intrinsic part of being born. So even plants and other beings that are born are subject to, death. And this is just a law of that, governing that. And that a craving cannot be satisfied. That's also another kind of Dhamma niyama. The unbridled or unsatisfied craving and attachment, and also the ego delusion is going to bring problems, because that's going to affect our mind with, in terms of performing actions with greed and hatred and delusion. And delusion basically means not knowing the truth about the mind, not knowing, the truth about these laws, actually. And so a lot of people are living out of harmony with the laws of nature. And then, of course, anatta, no self, the fact that, a permanent individual entity called a me or an I or the ego consciousness is basically an illusion, something that's created in the mind, by the mind, for the mind. And but it has its own laws, and it's connected with delusion and craving. So anyway, all this Dhamma niyama, basically it's, all the things that we read about in Dhamma, even like the Four Noble Truths or the Seven Factors of Enlightenment, or some of the other lists you read. Okay, these might be peculiar to the Buddha, but he discovered them because he realized this is the natural way. Following the Dhamma niyama, the end of suffering, he saw that this was the natural path, developing the four foundations of mindfulness, developing mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom, that would help, live, abide in harmony with the laws of nature, with the karma niyama, rather than living against its laws. In other words, the laws of greed, hatred, and delusion is in thoughts and actions and speech, bring the suffering. So now we come to the fifth one, the fifth niyama, and that is called the chitta niyama. And chitta, as we know, usually is translated as consciousness, or the mind, or mental states. So it's, sometimes synonymous with vijnana, or the consciousness. Anyway, it's also like the five aggregates, or at least the four mental aggregates of feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. The way the mind operates is governed by this chitta niyama, the operation of the mind. And so, that's especially the Buddha's specialty was understanding, especially this karma niyama, dhamma niyama, and chitta niyama, in terms of our life. And again, living in harmony with these niyamas, or these natural laws. And in a way, like our science and so on, it's disturbing the Utu niyama, and sometimes even the Bija niyama, by disturbing the climate and disturbing the weather, like with pollution, climate change, all these things that, are happening. Now these heat domes that are coming, and temperatures increasing and causing so much havoc and storms of more hurricanes. A lot of this, as we know, or at least scientists tell us, we basically believe it. It's caused by, a lot of it by our human greed, and by polluting, disturbing the natural climate by adding unnatural pollutants and other things to the atmosphere, and then also the ground. We're polluting the water, and the oceans are getting polluted. We read that, right? All this plastic, and now microplastics are, found in almost everything now. And so, the Buddha was right. The greed has led to really the living out of harmony, disturbing all these natural niyamas, these natural laws. So that was this person's question was about these niyamas this person had. Can you discuss the differences among them, and which of these laws affect us the most? Now, the ones that affect us the most, of course, is the common niyama, our actions bringing direct results. But that also is affected by our mind, not understanding our mind, and let our mind get caught up in its habits. Our five aggregates just bring people, because of their delusion, they approach the aggregates wrongly by clinging to them and clinging to them as self and I, and trying to control them. They cannot control them, and doing things that cause us pain. So it's interesting to see these, this broader explanation of these natural laws, in these five niyamas. So, having said that much, I want to see if anybody has any further questions about any of those. And you can, if you know how to raise your yellow hand on the on the one of those icons at the bottom of your screen, you could ask a question, or it could be some other question too. So the person that asked that question, John, did that kind of clear up some, questions or doubts that you had about any of those?
Yes, Bhante.
Other niyamas.
Thank you.
So if there's any other questions, it can be on some other topic, Dhamma topic, or meditation also. If you don't know how to operate the yellow hand icon at the bottom of the page, you can just sort of, go, hello, wave your hand or speak up. Okay, I see a yellow hand, Victoria.
Good evening, Bhante. Thank you for your teaching.
Please speak up a little louder so I can clearly hear your question.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I have a question about the right speech when you're in a moment of anger. Can you give an advice or ways to kind of I guess, control the harsh word or the emotions that comes out of that?
Okay, I'm going to try to repeat the question because your voice is still kind of soft, in case the others could not understand the question. So I think you had said that when a person is, in a grip of anger, maybe in a conversation with others, and they feel this anger arising, and how to control their speech, not to say something in a harsh tone, or some kind of break one of the four wrong speeches, as we find in the right speech. The best way, I think, is whenever you notice this anger, because it comes up, it triggers off adrenaline and other things. It's very powerful. Especially if one has not had developed a fairly good level of mindfulness of the body and general mindfulness. So the first thing, you can feel it in the body when you get angry because some muscles tighten up, and you can feel that. The best thing I've found is don't say anything. Usually you get in a conversation and you want to say something quickly. First, just stop and take a deep, slow breath. So try to take one of these deep, slow breaths that I'm always advising you to take at the beginning of meditation. And hold the breath in for as long as you comfortably can. And breathe out, because you can't speak while you're doing that. It takes all of your energy. And it will also help you to relax a bit. And then maybe that intense anger that was coming up could get diffused, or the other person might, change their tone. But anyway, really, I think the best way is taking a deep breath and not replying in a fit of anger, because usually that doesn't help the problem, because the other person will get more angry again. And usually, that's it's very difficult to get any resolution when two people are gripped in anger going back and forth. So first, take a deep, slow breath, or a couple, and then tell the person to wait a moment. Even if you tell them to please wait a moment, take a deep, slow breath, try to feel the muscles involved in that anger and relax. And then, then try to speak in a more, at least not in a way that might provoke a more negative reaction than the other person. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, that it does. Thank you.
So that's why those M&Ms are great. If you practice an M&M every hour, that means stopping every hour. Basically, you're doing that. And one of the best ways to do that is also, once you've finished one assignment or job or errand, before rushing to do the next one, do an M&M then. Just stop what you're doing, take a deep, slow breath, bring your mind to the body, hold the breath in for a few seconds, because you can't really think or do anything when you're breathing in slowly and holding the breath. That's probably one of these, would belong to one of these niyamas, whether it's Chitta niyama or Dhamma niyama. Okay. So, of course, that's just a temporary measure, but of course, sending out metta, maybe later on, in the evening or so, you go back and you reflect on that situation, maybe send this person metta, or ask them for forgiveness if it was, some sort of argument that you had, or forgive them if you're holding some negative thoughts, or even to yourself. But the main thing is we have to try to release these, these strong negative, especially anger and resentment and ill will, because, they'll continue to cause us problems until we kind of get it a little bit under control. Is there any other questions? How many of you out there in Zoom land were able to, I see there's one person who was actually at our retreat that's on the Zoom program right now, but are any of you other folks out there were able to listen to some of the Dhamma talks that I was giving each day during our retreat? I see a few hands, okay. So any questions from any of the subjects that I was covering during the Dhamma talks? Any questions about any of that? Because I know I didn't provide time for any of you on Zoom to answer questions. Okay, I saw Anne, you have a question?
Yes, Bhante. Your talk on dependent origination, I thought, it just went right over my head. It was pretty complicated. What do you think is the most important thing to start with when trying to learn and to understand it better? How do you?
Well, just to, maybe to get a book that explains it.
Okay.
Well, even Bhante Gunaratana now has, I think it's just come out, a new book that he has coming out, or it will come out. I'm not sure if it's out already. There were some, anyway, he wrote Dependent Origination in Plain English. That's one of his series of, the Dhamma in Plain English books. So, that might be a good one to start with. Now, I've given several talks on Paticca Samuppada, and from different angles. And, so, yeah, it's a very deep subject. It's very profound, but it's really, a cornerstone teaching that, should be at least understood. And as I mentioned in the talk, the most importance of that Paticca Samuppada are the contact, feeling, craving, grasping, and becoming. Those are the things we are encountering every second of our life, coming through our senses. That process of contact, feeling, craving, grasping, and becoming. And if you've developed your mindfulness to any kind of degree, at least, you may not notice. I mean, we can be aware of contacts and feelings, but maybe not see them so precisely, but at least the grasping, as I mentioned in the talk, the important part that we should focus on is grasping. That means the thoughts related to those initial objects of our desire or aversion. And craving and anger are very deep rooted, and you're not going to immediately get rid of those, but by not reacting and creating karma based on those sensual desires and ill will, it's the karma that we create that brings us suffering, not the actual greed itself or the anger, although that does bring some mental kind of agitation, but at least it's not going out there in the world and disturbing others and creating waves to come back to us. So I think that would be, the important part to understand initially, and how that we can see immediately the results of that, of those actions, especially what we do out of greed or anger. If we break the precepts, or even in the speech, we can see how that gets us all entangled with others. And so, that's the important part to understand about it, because that's where our daily life is totally involved in that. The rest of it about what a rebirth and so on, don't worry about that right now. That might become clear later, but it's not that important for understanding at least how to, practice mindfulness and to be able to, tone down and reprogram some of our negative thoughts and actions that, we keep on coming back to us.
Great. Thank you, Bhante. Great ideas.
Okay, there's a question came up by someone who's here staying at our center for a while. Somebody who was also at our week-long retreat, but is staying some days longer. So what is your question?
So Bhante, there's some planning, like, whatever planning people plan to buy a house, to go on vacation without grasping. Can one do something that is not grasping? And how, if it is, then how one can do that?
So the question was, can somebody, have plans, like you're going to plan to go on a vacation, so there's certain plans that you have to think about, or buy a house, or, planning how, what nursing home you're going to take your parents to. There's so many issues, right, in people's lives that require planning. Now, the question was, how can we do that without grasping? Well, first of all, you have to understand there's the grasping, it's the intention behind our grasping. The intention is what creates the karma. So if your intention is motivated by selfish greed, that means for oneself, or some greed, lust, greed, or anger, or selfishness, then the amount of greed and hatred behind the thoughts and the actions that you take, which would be like the grasping, is going to determine the severity of what kind of mental disturbance or effects come back to you. So, that's the main part. You always have to check your intention. It's not just the desire or the aversion there. It's what is the strength of that, and what is it trying to make you do? Something that you don't want to do. Let's say like break a precept, okay? Because then you will feel guilty about it and so on. But something like planning a vacation, it depends on the intention of the vacation. Like if you want to plan a pilgrimage to India to visit all the Buddhist holy places in India or other places, well, I'd do that myself. So that would be a wholesome intention. But if there's other trips that people make with the intention of indulging in various sensual desires and or getting stoned and things like that. So it's the intention behind it, and the strength of the intention is what is going to you can't just get away from any kind of planning and grasping, but it's all about watching the intention and trying to at least not do those negative intentions and actions that are going to break precepts or other things that will lead to more sort of strong attachments. Okay. Any last questions that coming up? Okay, if not, then let's take a few minutes break to get ready for our little yoga session preceding our meditation practice. Okay? So we'll see you back in a few minutes.
Bhante, were you in the military at that time? I was wondering, this is a military time.
Friends, try to stand straight, relax your shoulders, gently close your eyes, try to feel your eyes resting in the sockets, try to feel the outline of the standing body if you can, then begin some 3-part breathing, or deep, slow breathing, holding the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds after breathing in, before breathing out. Let's take several more deep, slow breaths, keeping the mind focused on the body.
Bhante, we just lost your video. Bhante, we're not seeing your video. Prashant, are you there?